Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. I am Martine, and you're listening to Martine's Musings. Last week I was supposed to upload an episode, and it was supposed to be a solo episode, but life happens, and I just didn't really have anything that I wanted to share. I've kind of been taking it easy this summer and not really stressing or going really hard with content and things like that, because usually I would obsess about my YouTube videos, my Instagram reels, my posts, whether I was posting, whether I was getting engagement and all of that stuff. But this summer has been different for me, and even before the summer started, I've been just really taking it easy when it comes to that, and just moving as I'm guided to move, creating as I'm guided to create, and not really putting pressure on myself and not stressing out about my social media content and if I'm putting myself out there, because I already am putting myself out there enough, as much as I can, as much as that I am able to. I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I have a full-time job. So this podcast is something that I really, really love to do. And I'm not going to put pressure on myself about posting episodes and things like that. So anyway, last week I didn't have anything to really talk about. So this week I have a guest. Her name is Ulrika Sullivan, and she is an author. She is a life coach and energy healer, as well as a podcaster too. So we are talking about heart-centered living in this episode. And heart-centered living is something that's always been so interesting to me, because as I have awakened and expanded my consciousness and been doing all of this, been learning, I should say, all of this spiritual information, heart-centered living was always at the core of that. Learning how to move, how to navigate life from your heart, right? But it is also so much more than that. It's also about following your intuition, self-care, self-love, just basically really connecting with who you truly are from a heart level, doing things that you love, and following your heart, following, the call of your soul. So Ulrika and I talk about these concepts of heart-centered living. She has a book which is titled Wisdom Beyond What You Know, which goes in depth about these concepts of heart-centered living and following your intuition. She also has a podcast titled New Light Living, which is also an extension of her book, and it's an extension of what she does as a life coach. An intuitive spiritual life coach and an author. Yeah, it was a really good conversation. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'm always love it when I have conversations about taboo topics like intuition and things of that nature, because people don't want to talk about intuition. I mean, everyone has an intuition, right? It's just that some of people just have stronger intuition than others, and some of it is much deeper. It goes into the astral realm, hence being a medium and things like that. But everyone has a baseline intuition, gut instincts that drives us. Your intuition is connected to your heart, because in order for you to follow your intuition, you are following your heart. You have to trust the information that's coming through, and which means that you have to be connected to your heart in a very, very healthy way. So I always love having conversations like that about things that are unknown, things that are unseen, but just really metaphysical topics like that. So we're going to hear the interview in a few minutes, but I just wanted to give you guys a brief little update as to what's been going on with me, where I've been. This past summer has been really introspective. It's been a really introspective time for me. I've been learning a lot about myself and learning about what I want, what I need, what things that come natural to me and things that don't, and all of that. It's just been really a me season, and I feel like it has a lot to do with, it definitely does. It definitely has a lot to do with Chiron being in Aries. Yeah, I'm going to start talking about astrology now. I am an astrology enthusiast. I am not an astrologer. I am still learning, and I don't even know when it would be an appropriate time to call myself an astrologer. So I'll just go with an astrology enthusiast, because I really believe that what goes on in the sky definitely affects us down here. So anyway, Chiron is in Aries right now, and it's actually in retrograde. My natal Chiron is in Aries, and it's in my first house. So that is all about self, all about self. Chiron is, your Chiron placement tells you what you've come into this incarnation with, as far as what you need to heal, what you need to overcome, what wounds you came in to this life with. So my Chiron, my natal Chiron being in Aries in my first house, indicates that I came in here with a lot of self issues, a lot of self-esteem, self-confidence, needing to really heal the poor self thoughts and poor self-image of myself. I needed to really build up my confidence, heal that, speak up, make myself be heard, celebrate myself. It's all about celebrate myself. And this is why I've felt like it's been a me season, because that's what I've literally been trying to do, is just really take care of myself, my mental health, and really celebrate myself, but not in a super obvious way, like not, partying or anything like that, but really taking care in the way that I speak to myself, and the way that I think of myself, the way that I affirm myself is really important. And I've been doing a lot of shadow work behind that as well. So like I said, it's been an introspective summer for me, and but I still do my podcast no matter what. It's really important to me to get information out to my audience and connect with people and just muse about things that are on my mind and things that I feel like are on other people's minds. And if you are on a spiritual journey like I am, all of this type of information is really important. So I hope that you continue to listen to the podcast and even go back to past episodes and browse around and look at the past topics, look at the past guests that I've had. There's a lot of good information there, you know, for anyone, man or woman, for personal and spiritual development. So anyway, I'm going to move on to the guest, Ulrika Sullivan, intuitive spiritual life coach, author, and podcaster, and take a listen to our conversation. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of the podcast. I'm Martine, and this is Martine's Musings. And today I muse with Ulrika Sullivan, who is an intuitive spiritual life coach. How are you doing today?
I am great, Martine. Thank you for inviting me to your beautiful podcast.
Of course, of course. So I was really interested in having you as a guest here because of your work and your book. And also, you're also a podcast host, right?
I am, yes.
And what's the title of your podcast?
My podcast name is New Light Living.
Oh, okay. And what do you talk about what is the premise of your podcast?
It basically is an extension of myself and what I teach. And it simply is to bring spiritual concepts and spirituality and how we can apply that to our daily life and make it real. I also talk about spiritual practice and how we can make it into a daily practice, etc. And there's so many other topics, but my mission with it is really to help others incorporate and integrate spirituality in their daily life. And it's beautiful to be able to speak about all of those topics.
Yeah. So we sort of kind of do similar things because my podcast is also an extension of what I do, and I like to talk about spiritual topics as well.
Yeah.
Which brings me to why I wanted you to be on the show is because I am really a big believer of heart-centered living and intuition. And your book, which is titled Wisdom Beyond What You Know, How to Shift from Being Driven by the Mind to Living from the Heart and Intuition, really sparked my interest.
Yes. I mean, it's one of the things that, I felt so strongly when I wrote this book that this is it. This is really what we as a collective and society is moving through right now. And I wanted it to be an actionable spiritual self-help book in that sense, to really help people to make that shift from being, up in our mind to,
Yes.
to come down in our heart and connect with our intuition and the rest of the universe. So yeah, it just came to me. So here we are.
And that is an everyday struggle, right? Getting out of our heads and being more in our hearts.
Yeah, my former life was a scientist.
Wow.
So I spent many years in corporate pharmaceutical industry as a scientist and business person. So the struggle was real.
Yes. Oh, I can imagine, because the struggle continues to be real for me as well. I work in publishing. I still work in corporate America, and I work in publishing. And it's like leading a double life.
Yeah.
In a sense. So tell me a little bit about you touched upon your corporate background. How did you make that transition? Like, I know there had to be a shift, and how did you make that transition? When did the shift kick in?
So the shift itself came a couple of years ago, but I spent about 20 plus years in the corporate world. And, as many of us do, we define success based on how society is defining success. And back then, it was, simply, if not simply, but a lot of the ways we define success is to get the degrees, the great jobs, to fit ourselves into a career path that was defined for us. And that led me down the path of huge success, but also feeling very disconnected from myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't realize that for many, many years, that I was disconnected from my heart and my true self. But the shift came when now I know it was a universe that orchestrated a shift for me and really pushed me out of my career and my current path, because I was so far disconnected from myself that it was time, like there was another path for me.
Yes.
But it opened up. Like what happened was that I was let go from my job, and I identified myself with my career. That was me.
Mm-hmm.
And often when we receive intervention like that from the universe, it hits where it matters the most. And for me, it was my career. That was my self identity. And being the businesswoman, the go go go,
Yes.
all those
Yes.
things,
The meetings, the travel, all of that. Yeah.
all of that, yeah. And I was presented with an opportunity to shift
Mm-hmm.
my career and life path in that sense. And now, a few years later, it was like the best thing that could ever happen to me. But back then, it was like, yeah, it took me down.
Yeah. Because I have a similar story to that as well. But when I lost my previous job, that's when I started my podcast 3 years ago. That's when I realized that I had intuitive gifts, and I started a blog and all of these things that really just made me happy. And although they weren't really paying my bills, I loved it. So then I felt like when I lost my job, and I don't know if you felt this too, that was what you needed in order to push you in the right direction, right?
Absolutely. In
And
hindsight, that
it,
was exactly
it
what I
was a
needed.
blessing.
It definitely a blessing in disguise,
Mm-hmm.
but and often we cannot see that or reflect upon that until much later. But yes, it's and I think the beauty of it is that I've learned so much about myself. I have come back to myself, and I have, like you, tapped into my natural gifts and talents, and now we're
Mm-hmm.
using that. So the frustration and struggle sometimes in a career that was not, it was great for me for a while, but it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't it. It
Right.
there
It's not, it really isn't. And a lot of people have a hard time really kind of connecting with their heart and their intuition. So when you speak about it to people who are not ready, if you're not ready to receive this type of information, then it's just not going to land, right?
right, right.
Yeah. How did you come about writing your book? What sparked that interest?
Hmm. Yeah, it's a combination of divine timing.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, I knew that I have a very, like, one of my talents is writing, because it
Mm-hmm.
comes very easily to me. And like you, I had been writing blogs for a number of years, on a weekly basis. And this book really came through me. It was a download, pretty much. Once I was free writing for a while, and then it just came together. The structure came together. But I truly believe it is a book for this time, because it was meant to be published now, because it's so relevant, and it's for those who, like you say, can are ready to receive that information.
Yes.
So it's a combination of listening to what I'm here to do and contribute with, and that combined with what I'm good at. So it was not a strategic decision to write a book, but I was divinely guided so that I can, I first started with joining a collaborative book. There are books that you can write a chapter in.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that really helped me, get over that, like, can I really write a book kind of
Yeah.
thing, right?
Yeah.
Because
Like
chapter,
an
that was
anthology, right? Is that what they call those anthologies?
anthologies, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, that book is just about to be published, but once I got started, it just
Mm-hmm.
was flowing. So I actually got to publish my book before this anthology comes out. So
Right.
that's pretty cool. But so yes, everything in my past was very strategically planned, but I truly trust that my book came out right when it was supposed, and I published it January this year.
Cool. So tell us, what is heart-centered living?
So heart-centered living is, as opposed to mind-driven living that many of
Mm-hmm.
us are very familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
And just to talk about what mind-driven living is, like what is that shift? It is when we are relying on what our mind is making up. For example, I write in the book about common patterns that we have been following for many years, such as, and even in generations back,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes like people pleasing, that pattern of people pleasing, or the pattern of working hard for success, like
Right.
that belief that if we work harder, we are going to receive more. And
Mm-hmm.
that is a very ingrained pattern in for many. And
Yeah, I know it was for me, at least. Yes.
yeah, yeah, and you can relate to that for sure. And also pattern, and in those are just patterns to help us, and they're placed in the book. I think I have 5 6 chapters with common patterns that
Mm-hmm.
we have been following, just because of, the mind wants to follow these patterns because they bring us comfort. And
Right.
that's just the essence of it, is that it's externally, we look at external validation, as opposed to heart-centered living, where we turn inwards and allow ourselves to listen to our true self, in the sense that it could be. And in the book, I highlight like a number of components of the fundamentals of heart-centered living, basically, such as becoming aware of our energy, how we run energy, how we relate to other people's energy as
Mm-hmm.
well. And the fact that inspiration and creativity is a guidepost for us, that I write a whole chapter about tapping in and tapping back to inspiration, creativity, and so on. Because in our past decades, it's been like this go, go, go for
Yeah.
an outcome that many times have been defined for us. But heart-centered living is really to tap into that spark within us, and
Mm-hmm.
that helps us define our next step. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a big shift, right? We go inwards to find the answers. Another component of heart-centered living is to connect with our environment, nature,
Yes.
to a much different degree than what we do have done in the past, and also to listen to our body, that body wisdom, to tap into, like, because we have so much wisdom with us already, and it's
Mm-hmm.
just there for us to tap into. And all of those things is part of heart-centered living, so that we can start noticing those signs and synchronicities that
Right.
are presented to us. So, you know, I in the book, there are a number of chapters around the fundamentals of heart-centered living, and that I love kind of how it all comes together in those shifts. Like you go from
Yeah.
here to here in the
Yes.
third part of the book.
Yes. I love that because a lot of times we move through our day kind of on autopilot, if
Absolutely.
you're and we kind of just do what the things that are put in front of us that we're supposed to do or that's expected of us. But a lot of times you kind of have to be conscious of, okay, let me just take a breath and kind
Yeah.
of connect. You know what I mean? Like something so simple as like the app on my Apple Watch, the mindfulness app, that when it goes off, I don't know if you're familiar, there's an app on here called the mindfulness app, and then it pops up and it tells you to be mindful for a minute. Just breathe in and breathe out of a minute of mindfulness, and
Mm,
then go about your day. You know what I mean? So I feel like that for people who are totally unfamiliar or want to do something to start connecting with their self or their intuition and be more of who they truly are, something small like being mindful for a couple of minutes a day can really help people start as well.
absolutely. That's a great start, because
Yeah.
that practice that you just shared can make a world of difference, because it's the seed, right? It's that
Yeah,
seed
it is.
towards
It's a seed.
expanding from
And
there.
it was one of the seeds for me actually. And that's why
Yeah.
um when I first was got my Apple Watch, I think it was a gift from my husband a while ago. And I've since gotten an upgrade, but I remember that app popping up and I was like, what the heck is this? And
But
but
it's
it planted a seed. Yes, it planted a seed for me.
beautiful.
Yeah, yes, for sure. So what about your podcast, New Light Living?
Yeah.
What are you doing over there?
So what I've been doing, I have had my podcast for about I call it 3 seasons now, but it's really 3 years.
Hmm.
And this past season, I have been focusing, since I was launching the book, I have been focusing on bringing out topics from the book each week.
Okay.
But I've also sprinkled it in with guests as well,
Yes.
and different topics. So I love kind of just spreading the wisdom that
Hmm.
is here for us all to enjoy and learn from.
Yes.
And so it's been an easy season this season to kind of create episodes around the topics of the book.
Right.
Now, the way I do my podcast too is that I take a few months rest
Hmm.
from my podcast, so I don't go like every week, every year, all of that. But so
Hmm.
I'm in the process of wrapping up season 3 now, and then I'll take some time off, and then the theme will come to me next, what
Yeah.
it's going to be for the next season. So
I think I'm going to do the same as well because I am in my third. Well, this year will make 4 years. So I think by in August or September or something like that, I think I'm going to wrap, stop around that time and take a break and then restart again.
yeah, yeah, and I see my podcast, and you may do too. It's just
Hmm.
um, another way to share what
Hmm.
we're all about. So it's awesome to be able to share also other people's work
Yes.
through that medium of
Yeah. And
podcasting.
I really like to have guests on too. Well, when I started my podcast, I don't know if it was the same for you. I didn't know why I wanted to start it, what I was really doing it for. I just really felt the strongest need to have a voice for people, and I was going through a spiritual awakening at the time. and I felt like I could share while I'm going through this as well. It was, I look back at it, I'm like, it was so strange because I didn't know what I was doing, but I was determined to do it, to start it.
Yeah, and I think you're bringing up something hugely important, because
Yeah.
that's part of heart-centered living as
Yeah.
well, to
Yeah.
have a voice and expand that, because somebody is going to listen and resonate with you uniquely and me uniquely, and
Hmm.
there's room for everyone, right? So
Yeah.
if somebody is listening or watching this right now, if you have something to say, podcasting is awesome, because it's your space. You can, and there will be people who resonate, that needs to hear what you're saying.
Hmm.
So that's so beautiful about it.
Yeah, for sure. And I like, starting a podcast or doing things that you're just are called to do. That that's part of. Um, I was just listening to my intuition as well, right? And that's what it's all about, is listening to your intuition. And I feel like the intuition leads you to your heart center. If that
Absolutely, it's
if that made
connected.
sense.
I
Yeah,
I
it's all
truly believe it's
connected.
of the same energy. Like, everyone has
Hmm.
a life force, and that we can tap into and get to know much deeper. And in that process, we also are able to connect to our true self, or
Yeah.
higher self, whatever we want to call it.
Yeah. When
So
did you realize that you were intuitive?
um I would say it's interesting to reflect upon that. I think I've always been intuitive,
Hmm.
but and I believe everyone is. It's just a matter of, once we once it, once we become curious
Right.
about ourselves, and starting to ask ourselves the questions like, who am I, or what do I really want, or how can I feel better? Even that question is a very profound question. Once we start, and once I started to ask myself those questions, I didn't
Hmm.
have answers. But the point is that when I started to ask myself those questions, instead of looking for all the answers on the outside,
Hmm.
that's when I realized that I have this ability to channel and bring through messages that are truth.
Right. Right.
And that's when I realized that. And also when I practiced, when I was writing my blogs, I started to write on a weekly basis. That's when I realized too, like, this, when I go back and read it, like, did I really write this? And I'm sure you
Yeah.
have the same feel
I
sometimes. Like,
actually I feel like my intuitive gifts really come through as writing as well. As far as me channeling, um, it's writing for me, automatic writing. And all of a sudden, like this morning in my meditation, what my practice is I will meditate and I will call in Archangel Gabriel, and I will ask for a message for myself or the collective. And then I just start to write, and then all of a sudden all of this information just starts flowing through, and then next thing you know, I have a legit message
yes.
that is either for me or the collective, and that I can share in some sort of way. And sometimes I may share it on my podcast or in a Instagram post, a TikTok video, whatever the case may be. I will just share it. And so that's how it's come out for me. I do read cards too, which I enjoy. I really enjoy that. But the channeling for me, it really comes through writing. And
Yeah.
I have a lot of other people that I met on the internet that channel, and My problem was wanting to channel like they do. Do you know what I mean? Like
Mhm. Yeah.
verbally, and but I guess that's not where I'm at. So I had to be comfortable, right? We all have to be comfortable with where we're at in our journey.
Yeah.
So for right now, my spiritual practice in terms of channeling spirit is writing. Then that's what I'm going to continue to do. And when it shifts, um, if it shifts, then I'll receive that as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I love what you're saying because it is no right and wrong how we
Right.
tap into our abilities, right?
Yes.
And uh, it it's different for everyone,
Mm-hmm,
and there's
mm-hmm.
no better or worse.
Yeah, and I had to learn that. I really had to learn that
Mhm.
and be okay with that. I don't know if that was the same for you. What was your experience with that?
Absolutely. I think the more I learned how to trust what came through and how
Yeah.
it came through, I know it's right for me.
Mm-hmm,
I don't really strive to accomplish something different when there is this inner knowing that I have.
mm-hmm,
And of course, it expands because, like you, I also use cards. Um, I use intuitive journaling and channeling kind of, but it always expands into something more. So now
mm-hmm,
you know, I see, like I have an inner knowing that it's almost like an image, but it's not an image.
mm-hmm.
It's like a knowing of what's going on yeah. So I
I
can,
understand. I understand
yeah,
because I get that same inner knowing, and it'll be a quick image. So you think it's a blur, but it was really an image.
yeah, yeah. So, but here's the thing, right? What works for you or works for me or a viewer or listener here is
Mhm.
the right thing.
Right.
There's nothing else that is better because somebody else can receive their messages in a different way. It's what it is. It makes us trust ourselves and our journey more,
Yeah.
and that's the good thing about it. And then how it comes to us is different for everyone.
Yeah. And that's the key to it, is just trusting. Trusting. So you do life coaching as well, correct?
Yes, I'm a life coach
Mm-hmm.
and an energy healer as well. And often I combine the two modalities of energy healing and life coaching, spiritual life
Right.
coaching.
Oh, that's interesting. How do you do that?
Yeah. And I start with a basic kind of package of coaching sessions because
Mhm.
that's kind of the fundamental
Yes.
way of my way of helping others. But then I give them an option for now with the pandemic and all. I've only given remote healing, energy
Mm-hmm.
healing,
Mm-hmm.
but it's really the same thing because universal energy is not dependent on distance or time.
Right. Right.
so but what it does, it accelerates what we're doing in the coaching because and my philosophy around this is that when we transform, the body needs to be part of that
Yes.
because there's so we're whole and our
Yeah.
body is part of it all. So when we transform, I help kind of accelerate that transformation by working on the energy centers in the body
Mm-hmm.
as well as the coaching part. So that has been proven being extremely powerful.
Would you say that when you do coach people, do you, like someone who is a new client, do they come to you already with knowledge of, let's say, intuition or heart-centered living, or is that something that you introduce to them? And
So everyone that comes to me feel called to contact me,
Mhm.
and it's not that they always, oh, can you help me connect with my intuition or so, because often they come with something else that they believe needs to be fixed.
Right.
And what comes out of the sessions is really the truth of what needs to be addressed and released in their life at this time. So yeah, I mean, often probably 90% the person has a perceived kind of, oh, here's why I need help,
Yes.
or here's what I need to do. But then at the end of the day, it becomes something else. So, but I'm trained in helping people navigate from any stage of their spiritual journey. So that's really what we do in the first session, which is a little longer, to establish that starting point together. And whether it's, the spiritual journey that they need kind of the next guidance on, or if it's to actually clear their past energy to be able to open up to their future.
Interesting.
And that's it is very interesting.
Yeah. I do Reiki healing as well. I'm still new, but I am trained and certified.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes as well. So where can, if for people who would like to purchase your book and contact you, where can they purchase your book? Where is that available?
The book looks like this: Wisdom Beyond What You Know. You can get it on my website, wisdombeyondbook.com. Or visit my website, my name, ulrikasullivan.com.
Okay. And I'll have all of that information in the description box for anyone who wants to buy your book, who wants to reach out for you for sessions, to work with you one-on-one. All of that information will be in the description for everyone to see. All right.
And if you visit my website, I have a free gift there, or you can also download a free chapter. But the gift is really my 7-step guide to listen to your intuition. So that might be a good first step to see, if somebody is interested in learning more. And of course, I'm always available for a discovery call so that you can learn more about what this is all about. And if you have questions for me, I'm always available.
Perfect. Thank you for joining us on the show, and I'm really happy that you came.
Yes, thank you, Martine. You're doing beautiful work.
So are you, and so are you.
Thank you. I'm honored to have been guest on your podcast today.
No problem. And everyone, thank you for listening. If you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, like the video. And for those of you that are listening on the podcasting platforms, go ahead, leave me a rating or however that goes on there. I'm not even sure. Subscribe to the show. But thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And I will see everyone next time. Take care. Bye.
Bye.